Hello and welcome back to 5 Minute Materials, the show where we demystify, I've forgotten how the punchline goes, but today we're going to be looking at the Switch node. Now this is one that actually went under my radar for quite a while. Why is my screen? Hold on. Now this is one that went under my radar for a little while. I believe it was introduced somewhere in Unreal 5. And if we just take a quick look at it, I'll show you what it does do. So if we search Switch, now this is different to static Switch. So this Switch node, you'll see it has a Switch value, it has a default value, and then it's got just an empty boy. However, if we take a look over here, you can see that when I click on this node, we have the ability to create an input and another input and another input and another input and another input. And we are also able to name these pins. So this one can be, I don't know, linguini. Now you're probably wondering, arancini isn't actually a form of pasta, but we're going to ignore that for now. So if we chuck this into our base color, we get an error straight away because we're not putting anything in. So something has to go in to all of these values. And let's just put some colors in, and let's just go and randomize all these colors. The default is 0. The current value is also 0. So what happens when we change this to, I don't know, 0.5? Well, nothing happens. What about 0.9? Also nothing happens. But as soon as this cracks past number 1, we are now using the different switchy thing. So you can see we can cycle through these, whatever. Very cool. If we go outside of our value, I believe it uses the default. So if the value isn't present, or we put in like a negative number or something, then it will use this thing. This switch here is some sort of ternary operation. It isn't a true branching switch like the static switches are. So static switches can only be changed in a material instance. And when you do actually click, these switches, it will actually recompile the shader, which is why they can't be done at runtime. So you can create like a master material, and then you can have a switch that says, use detail texture or something. And it might be like an expensive operation, and you don't want it to be running in like the background of anything that inherits from that master material. So, that's a way that you can like turn on and off features per material. However, this switch, on the other hand, isn't recompiling the shader every time the value changes. So all of the, you could call them branches, all of the selectors are running over the top of each other, even if they're not visible, on the shader. So if you've got, 100 different things going into this switch, all of them are going to be running in the shader. Now, GPUs are like giga fast at doing that kind of thing. It's usually much more expensive to actually do a branching operation. So for a GPU to evaluate a branch and then not execute anything past that point is usually a lot more expensive than just doing all of it, even though only some of it is actually visible, on the screen. However, one thing to keep in mind, if this is a static value, I'm pretty sure it actually does only include, the one that it's set to. I don't know when that would really come in handy. I guess in like a material function, where you've got like a bunch of, I don't know, different effects or something, and you're just chucking them all into here. And in your master material, you're like, which, effect do I want to use? Oh, we want to use number 2 in this one. Anyway, moving on to some actual use cases. Now, if you've been following my channel for a little while, and you've seen either my video about reducing draw calls, getting rid of material slots by doing like a big giga blend material function, or the video about like my character mega material setup, which uses functions that look like this. So as a little refresher, all of the props in my project have like a secondary UV channel where all of their UVs are like collapsed down into little groups and put in kind of columns, and then we use those, you know, the values, so like 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., etc. We use them to separate, you know, the colors and the textures and the effects and all that kind of stuff, which eliminates the use of extra material slots, which reduces the draw calls that we're, you know, that we're shooting from the CPU to GPU. So if we take a little look inside here, you can see that there is a little bit of math going on. It's very light math. It looks like a lot. It's also got like little elimination switches. Some people set up this using like a lerp, like a chain of lerps, or a chain of if nodes, which aren't true branching if nodes. They're just ternary, you know, it evaluates both sides. This whole setup here could be simplified by just doing our switch node, get the text coordinates. We want to just get the R channel, like the horizontal axis. We multiply that by however many segments we want. So let's just do 10 for now, and plug that into the switch value. Now what that's doing, if you're having trouble visualizing it, is our UV space is usually 0 to 1 and 0 to 1 in this direction, but we don't care about that for now. So let's imagine this is 0 and we have like a slight upwards to 1. What we're saying is multiply all of these values by 10. So the line now looks like this, where this is 10. And, you know, if this was 0.9, it will now be just 9, the integer 9. And 0.8 is now 8, etc., etc. So if we plug all those colors back in, you can see that we instantly have our 10 little segments, and they all just get spat out here. Obviously, I don't have anything in the extra segments. Now, if you wanted to do a grid, so like horizontal and vertical, you could simply just get the G channel, the number of columns, and then you would simply just chain these together. So you would have one of these going into there, one of these going into there, one into there. This would go into all of these. This is going to take me a few minutes, so I'm probably just going to skip ahead. And then I just have to hook up the colors. So I'll do the colors so that they're in like a kind of crisscross pattern. All right, and now when I hit compile, what the fuck? Huh? Oh, I didn't plug this in. Haha, there we go. Okay, we have our our grid pattern. So you could use this to separate UV islands. You could use this to, I don't know, if you just wanted to make a funny pattern, then good for you. Another thing you could use this for is just switching between textures. So maybe you've got like a really high resolution, like facial texture, you know, like kind of cartoony style where they just switch between different face textures, but you don't want to pack them all into a, you know, like a 16K texture atlas and use like an actual flipbook. You just want to be like, okay, here's this character's happy texture, their sad texture, their whatever texture. You whack them all into here, and then you just have a parameter that you can change on the fly. So you just be like, okay, when the character's sad, we want to change this to 1, and when they're happy, we want to change it to 3, and that would just, you know, update the, that would do all the kind of switching between the textures for you. All right, so it's time to set up our kind of test scenario to see if either is cheaper than the other. So our test conditions are gonna be, we're gonna get, I don't know, 20 of these. Maybe we'll just do 10, or I think, what's my material props atlas go to? It goes to 16, so we'll do 16, and we're going to hook up all of these things. So we now have our 16 little segments. So we're gonna get one, and then we're just gonna duplicate it, and then we're gonna duplicate that 10 of them. Hey, okay, there we go. Okay, now we're starting to to dip under my frame rate cap. So our test is thus. We have 200 translucent planes over the top of one another. So in theory, we are running the pixel shader 200 times per pixel. We're going to keep the camera in the same spot. If we just put in just a static value into the base color, our baseline is just around 90 FPS. If we put in a texture, we go to about 85, 86, 87. Now using this switch, we're at about 80, 87, 88, 89. Cheaper than a texture, at least, relatively speaking. Then if we use my old atlasing function, 88, 87. So maybe one frame lower than this method. I'd say this has a slight edge, which is great because, you know, it's much simpler and cleaner. Now, in terms of instruction count, because I know everyone, you know, cares about their instruction count and how, you know, how green their materials look in the shader complexity model. My old Atlas, 179 instructions, and the Switch has 186 instructions. So, like, according to, you know, shader complexity enthusiasts, my method would, you know, oh, it's cheaper. But in reality, it's actually very slightly slower, according to our extremely scientific testing that we're doing right now. Yeah, well, there you go. So that's going to conclude it for today's video. I hope that, you know, having this node brought to your attention has opened up some new avenues for your shader journey. As always, if you want to support monetarily, the best way to do so is through the Patreon for as little as $1 per month. Thanks to all of the existing patrons. You guys are spectacular. If you want to see me do live development, I'm streaming on Twitch most days of the week. And with that, we say goodbye. Goodbye.